You know, if I wanted to kill somebody, I'd take this book and beat you to death with it, and I wouldn't feel a thing. It'd be just like walking to the drugstore.
Charlie Manson is dead.
Who is Manson? And what is he most known for? Let's check it out.
For an entire generation of Americans, Charles Manson was the living embodiment of evil, a symbol of an era when the country seemed to be spinning out of control. His baleful stare compelling millions to make sure their doors were locked at night and to lie awake listening for intruders with murder in their minds. In 1969, Manson's so-called family, a group of dropouts, drifters, and burned-out hippies, murdered 7 people in 2 separate attacks in Los Angeles. They acted on Manson's orders. The victims were taken by surprise at night in their homes and brutally stabbed and shot to death. The gang left messages including death to pigs and helter skelter, scrawled in blood. The slain included the rising young actress Sharon Tate, who was 8 months pregnant. On trial for the murders, Manson carved an X into his forehead, which he later turned into a swastika. He taunted the court and at one point tried to attack the judge. Prosecutors argued his motive was that African Americans would be blamed for the murders, thereby inspiring an all-out racial war, which Manson called Helter Skelter. Manson, prosecutors said, believed he and his gang would survive and prosper in the aftermath. Manson and 3 other family members were sentenced to death, but the California Supreme Court temporarily overturned the death penalty in 1972, and the sentences were reduced to life in prison. He gave interviews expressing no remorse.
Maybe I should have killed 400 or 500 people, then I would have felt better. Then when I felt like I really offered society something.
Is that amazing? He is happy at the thought of people dying. It brings him joy. He has no remorse. Oh my goodness, his eyes look kind of reptilian. Scary.
You know, if I wanted to kill somebody, I'd take this book and beat you to death with it, and I wouldn't feel a thing. It'd be just like walking to the drugstore.
Charlie Manson is dead, but for Americans of a certain age, his name will always conjure up a shiver of fear, of twisted minds, and things that lurk in the night.
I see blood in here every day. Every day someone's getting shot, someone's getting cut, someone's getting beat.
For this list, we'll be ranking the most interesting facts about Charles Manson, the man convicted of orchestrating the Tate LaBianca murders, as well as facts revolving around the brainwashed young men and women he called his family. These brutal and senseless acts of violence would take much more than a few minutes to explore fully, but these are 5 facts about Manson and his family, which will hopefully offer up some intriguing points of discussion.
The only thing my mother taught me was that everything she said was a lie. And I learned never to believe anyone.
Charles Manson didn't directly kill anyone.
When I stand on the mountain and I say, do it, it gets done. If it don't get done, then I'll move on it. And that's the last thing in the world you want me to do.
It's called murder by proxy. Manson was convicted of 7 counts of first-degree murder for his role in driving his devoted followers to homicide. That being said, Manson wasn't directly...
See, it's not necessarily the person that you've got to be careful of. It's the followers. And every psycho has them.
Involved in all the events which took place on August 9th and 10th in 1969, although he did accompany his group on the second night.
A small, bizarre character named Charles Manson was charged with provoking his apparently fanatic followers to commit the crimes.
Instead, he manipulated and ordered his followers to commit the Tate LaBianca murders in his name, capitalizing on the almost messianic hold he had over his so-called family.
And when I got out, all your children would come to me because they never had anybody tell them the truth.
This was thanks to the group's communal, cult-like existence on the Spawn Ranch, where Manson and his family often indulged in heavy psychedelic drug use and orgies, all of which Manson oversaw as the unquestioned leader. This control made it possible for Manson to induce cult members Susan Atkins, Linda Kasabian, Patricia Krenwinkel, Leslie Van Houten, and Charles Tex Watson to commit murder over the course of those 2 summer nights.
And then Tex turned me around and handed me the knife and he said, do something. Because Manson had told him to make sure that all of us got our hands dirty.
Manson named his mission statement after a Beatles song. The members of Charles Manson's family wrote a number of words on the walls of their victims' homes in blood, most notably a misspelling of the famous Beatles song Helter Skelter. This is because Manson ascribed a particularly important meaning to that song. He had a vision that a black versus white race war was on the horizon, and believed that the Beatles knew about it. Don't let me down! He told his followers that the Fab Four were passing coded messages directly to them through the White Album, and took Helter Skelter to describe the grand race war he prophesied.
Manson envisioned that white people would turn against the black man if they thought the black man had committed these 7 murders.
Manson thought that by fanning the flames to get this war started, his family could hide out and ultimately take control after the black people had won.
Told him, he said, we're going to hide out in the bottomless pit in the desert, a place he derived from Revelation 9.
And of course he worked in some crazy connection between the Beatles and the biblical 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Of course.
And quoting Manson, we'll send Blackie on his way to picking cotton, and we'll take over the leadership of the world.
Number 2, Manson wanted to be a rock star.
He lived to see Obama, who was, I believe he's half black, African American, in the White House.
Did some recording. But nothing came of the sessions.
Nope, he didn't always want to be a cult leader. He just wanted to rock. In fact, he made numerous recordings with the family and was arm's length to some popular musicians. Manson developed a relationship with Beach Boys drummer Dennis Wilson. Wilson lived with a number of women at his California home, 2 of whom were hitchhikers he picked up who belonged to Manson's family. Wilson began...
Okay, now, when do the Beach Boys cruising around gonna pick up some girls hitchhiking? When they can have any girl they want, right? They're the Beach Boys. I believe this is all distraction for the Vietnam War was happening at that time, and people were really protesting.
They came to the ranch, lady. I didn't go to them, they came to me. You're stealing my music every day. You're writing my songs, you're playing my game.
Most notably, the Beach Boys recorded a song called Never Learn Not to Love, which was adapted by Wilson from a Manson tune. I'm your kind, and I see. Manson wrote and recorded many songs in the 60s, some of which he petitioned other artists to record, and others which have gone on to be covered by such acts as Guns N' Roses. Look at your game, girl. Makes you wonder, if Charlie's music career had gone a little better, would he have ever become a cult leader?
Now, how is it that Charlie Manson, some drug addict that lives out in the mountains, hanging out with the Beach Boys, rocking it, Guns N' Roses are playing his music? Very suspicious indeed, as that one guy on YouTube would say.
Manson was always bitter that his music would remain unheard.
Number 1. Charles Manson was almost a sideshow attraction. The infamous legacy of Charles Manson reared its head once again in 2015 when it came to light that a 25-year-old woman named...
I think they all come from the same family of creeps. I want to show something here. Manson is a very small man. Excuse me. Manson is a very small man. And he's standing behind this woman. Now, look at his head is bigger than hers, and hers is in the front. So hers should actually be bigger because his is in the back, and he's a very small man. I guess what I'm getting at is Manson is a man. I believe he might have, and this is in my opinion, he might have been Endgame MK Ultra, because hanging out with all those poor souls. Oh my goodness. Let's continue.
Elaine Burton, referred to by Manson as Star, had become engaged to the 80-year-old convict.
Well, because I love him, and I've got half a brain.
Star was the proprietor of a pro-Manson website and Facebook page and had been visiting Manson in prison from the age of 19, claiming to be in love with the environmental texts he had written while incarcerated.
Charlie is all about ATWA, which is air, trees, water, animals.
Moreover, Starr believes Manson is innocent of the murder charges and was determined to marry him. The two even received a marriage license.
She really loves Charlie Manson. Bottom line.
Manson eventually called off these nuptials when, according to crime writer Daniel Simone, he found out that Burton had plans to display his corpse in a glass case as a Los Angeles attraction, charging spectators to view him in state. To be fair, there's very little to back up this claim, but honestly nothing would surprise us when it comes to this guy.
The New York Post also reports that Manson is angry at the idea because he believes he is immortal.
I wonder if he repented or turned from his evil ways before he died at 83 of natural causes. Well, he's right in the sense that, you know, his flesh might be dead, but his spirit is moving on, or living on, and it's on the other side, and I don't think he's going to like what he found on the other side. Thank you for your time.